All right. Good morning, Lacrosse Leadership
Hi there.
Institute. We've got Tommy with us today with Sidewallz Lacrosse. Extremely excited to be able to hear more about his story. For those of you that aren't familiar with Lacrosse Leadership Institute, the whole idea is lacrosse has played such a huge part in all of our lives. I'm no exception, but I felt passionate enough to put this together and reach out to other individuals who have lacrosse in their background. They want to grow the game. They want to have an impact on everyone around us. And we want to hear their stories. Today, I'll be talking with Tommy and learning a little bit more about what lacrosse means to him, what Sidewallz Lacrosse is all about, and we'll see where that conversation goes. But for starters, Tommy, I know we started this conversation. I stopped this before we started, but how'd you get involved in lacrosse?
Yeah, so I actually started in 7th grade. My cousins are from New Hampshire. Shout out to Jana and Jess Drummond. They're actually coaching now at the college level at Vermont and UMass. Yeah, so they brought sticks to a family Christmas in Michigan, and that's where I was first introduced to it. And I just thought it was so cool. It was funny. The first stick that they brought was the Brine Prophecy. So if you remember, that had like the blue sidewalls on it. And it was just like such a unique thing to me. And I picked it up right away, kind of like I was used to playing baseball. And so, yeah, ever since then, continue to play. That was the first year in Michigan that they actually started the programs in my area as well. Was fortunately just right then that year. So I don't know if you can hear my dogs one sec. I'm going to actually be right back. Sorry.
No, I understand, Tommy, that the lacrosse starting up has been such a big thing all around the country. I know Michigan had some great involvement. The idea that a family can come in and bring the sticks to the different family members and get involved, that's a pretty cool thing to have. And did you grow up then in Michigan playing, or can you continue the story from there?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, playing lacrosse, starting in 7th grade, like I said, and then played all the way through high school there. And then that's my junior year. I went out to a camp in Massachusetts and got recruited to play for the Air Force Academy. So from 2010 to 2014, went out and played for the Air Force Academy. And then after that, kind of bounced around the NLL, the indoor league, for about 4 or 5 years thereafter. So
really cool, man. So do you have a Pinnacle lacrosse moment? What's your favorite moment that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say that 2 come to mind right off the bat. I think winning the ECAC championship my senior year in college was huge. I mean, there was just so much work that went into that from the team's perspective. And so being with that group of guys that I consider family, to be able to accomplish a feat like that, which was so important for the program and just for ourselves with all the work we put into it, that was really cool. Now getting into more like the business side of things, being able to be a sponsor at the 2018 World Lacrosse Championships in Israel, seeing the sidewalls, like dasher boards on ESPN for all the games, and the World Championship game, that epic game between USA and Canada, that was really cool as well. Something that stands out more recently. So I'd say, yeah, those 2 probably.
Oh man, those are 2 great things to start drawing from. But I'm really inclined to hear, at least for the start, more of the business side, because I haven't really spoken with anyone who's taken lacrosse and turned it into a business other than maybe coaching and putting on clinics. But you've put together a whole line of heads, and what else are you up to?
Yeah, so in a couple of weeks, hopefully, I'm working on the new merch collaboration that I've got going on. So I'm excited to release that. But yeah, the main focus of Sidewallz Lacrosse is the actual lacrosse heads. And so you've seen on Instagram and maybe some other places how uniquely those are, dyed, if you will. I can't say the exact process because that's kind of our secret, but it's the first thing everyone asks always. So they're definitely unique in that sense, but that all originated because starting back in 7th grade when I started playing, I wanted to put my signature on the game, if you will, by creating my own custom stick that kind of showed my personality as a player. And so the first one that I actually tried to do was I just tried to dye my stick jet black, and I ended up coming out with this like dark purple head. I'm like, well, all right, I guess I have to use that now, my parents aren't going to buy me a new one. And then it's funny, a year later, I actually dyed, because I didn't have, another stick to dye. I ended up dyeing my name onto my brother's stick, like Tom McKee. And it was then again, like faded colors of whatever, team I was on. And I just like kind of started thinking after that, there has to be a better way, So it wasn't something I was actively thinking about through, my lacrosse journey until college. Well, I guess my second college, if you will. So after the Air Force Academy, I got stationed in Wichita, Kansas, and I started a master's program at Oklahoma State University. That was an MBA focused in entrepreneurship. And the first class project we had was to come up with some business idea, business plan that we could, write and create and then potentially pursue, So I randomly had found this note in my phone of, custom lacrosse heads, but, better. And then from there, I was able to just kind of get the business plan going. And once I saw some of the potential for the idea and how this could really impact the sport and make a difference, I just realized like, hey, this is something I want to actually go with and pursue. So stopped school there and just started pursuing the business full time.
That's awesome. So how long have you been doing this for?
So that would have been the summer of 2016. I officially launched the product in the fall of 2017. So about 3 to 4 years now. Mm-hmm.
And in 2016, is that when you started the MBA and entrepreneurial project, or is that okay? And then
yeah.
Up from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, and I did it kind of as a way to set myself up for my transition out of the Air Force. So after graduation in 2014, you owe 5 years of service back to the Air Force, right? So, starting in that kind of middle point for it, my hope was that at the point I am now, I could, again, successfully transition myself from my Air Force career into this entrepreneurial Sidewallz Lacrosse business that, I wouldn't be at ground zero while I was separating, it would be on a more firm foundation from there, so it worked out well.
Good. I think that's such a big thing for all entrepreneurs that I've spoken with. It's, hey, if you have something that's your main job at the start, you got to be ramping up that new project so that when you make that transition, that leap of faith, if you will, you're ready to go. Did you have to make that decision of, hey, this is a leap of faith, or it sounds like you set up your transition process pretty seamlessly? How did you ultimately go about that and say, hey, this is the direction I want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could have, when the time got for my service commitment to be up in the Air Force, I could have transitioned into another job to support myself while going at Sidewallz still. But like you said, with that leap of faith, it's just that allows me to dedicate all my time to the business and growing this thing and getting it out there, which was important for me. And I thought that was from listening to other mentors and podcasts on entrepreneurship. I think that really is what helps separate businesses and becoming successful. So I really wanted to get myself to the point where I could make that full transition rather than, again, relying on something else to sort of keep me afloat. Because I think in some senses that holds you back from doing what's necessary in order to get that business to where it really needs to be. So
100%. The whole idea of burning the ships and being able to just go on. Is it just you, Tommy, or do you have a team that you're a part of or leading?
Yeah, it's just me right now. I always say we in a lot of these videos and things because there's a lot of, contract employees and partners that I work with in order to make everything happen. I can't obviously produce everything on my own. I'm more just running everything behind the scenes. And then I give a ton of credit to my, business mentors that I have that have given me such amazing advice on how to do this and continue to keep me swimming when things get hard and all that. So it really is a team effort. But yeah, as far as the Sidewallz Lacrosse business goes, I guess it would technically be, just me right now. So.
And I think that's a big thing with all businesses is there's a lot of other people that are working, a lot of moving parts. Even this Lacrosse Leadership Institute, for instance, there's a lot of different people that play a part of it. How do you stay organized, and do you think lacrosse had an impact in terms of how you're able to execute on all these different levels?
It's huge. I mean, just talking about what's in your name, leadership, I think I gained a ton of leadership experience from my experiences playing lacrosse. And that's huge then going forward and creating a company and trying to do something special with it. When I think about leadership, I think about making hard decisions or doing what's right, even when it's hard, And so two things that go into that to me are critical thinking and decision making, right? And those are, I think, much more apparent when you're on the lacrosse field, right? Because it's like, I need to take this shot because the clock is running out and we're down by a goal. So some of these situations are much more clearly laid out for you in that lacrosse field setting than they are in the real world. But being able to, experience that pressure in a more controlled environment like the lacrosse field, being able to make those decisions, make the right ones, make the wrong ones. Again, I think that all just helps build character in people and players and allows them to be successful in these things in the outside world where those problems aren't necessarily as black and white as they're on the field, but the skills that they've gained through the game help them navigate that in a way that helps them be successful leaders and great examples and role models for people.
I think that's spot on with my experience as well. It's not the real world, but you have to make those critical decisions. Can you share a story with a critical decision you had to make with Sidewallz Lacrosse?
Yeah, let me think about that for a second.
I know I'm throwing you on the spot with this.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been, I guess trying to figure out how to tie in and continue to honor the respect for the game. That's been a big part of it for me, right? Because I'm not Native American in heritage, but the heritage is a huge part of this thing to me, and it was something that my college coach, Eric Sermet, instilled in us at Air Force. He created what we called the tribal system there. And so we split up our team into the 6 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy. So we had, it was a team of about 50 guys. So each nation, or tribe had 8 to 9 guys, So we had Tuscarora, Onondaga, Oneida, Mohawk, Cayuga, Seneca. And from there, each group had a sachem that was responsible for, that group of 8 or 9 players, and it spanned from freshmen all the way up to the upperclassmen. But he was always so instrumental in making sure we understood that this was more than a game, and this heritage, piece of the game is what's super important to continue to carry on. And so I think for me, it goes hand in hand with the uniqueness of the product with Sidewallz Lacrosse, right? I've done a ton of sticks that are, we're kind of memorializing people that have passed and are super important on this deeper level to people that play with and use that stick. And so I think just for me, when I think about that, you're talking about critical decision making and leadership within Sidewallz, I think trying to respectfully portray that, connection to the history of the game going forward and not lose sight of that is something that's important for me and that I probably think about most when, thinking about the critical things you talk about, I've actually gone back and forth with the Iroquois Nationals about sticks. Unfortunately, they're sponsored by Nike right now. So they've had some samples and have, had players try them out and things like that. But we'll, see how that continues. But relationships like that, and then the sticks I said, especially the memorial type ones are super important. And when I think about all that.
That's really cool. And it sounds like that's a core value that you have is just respecting the heritage.
Yeah. The vision that I have for Sidewallz Lacrosse is to inspire the lacrosse community and give back to the game that has given us so much. That's, the vision statement for the company. So it fits right in line with that, right? It's this game is more than a sport. And so through Sidewallz Lacrosse, you know, whether it's helping people, you know, mentally, emotionally, getting them involved with the sport, introducing people to it, or then, you know, donating back to different charitable causes that we can, or, you know, providing scholarships, you know, hopefully in the future as we're able and we grow. All that stuff is just like what I really want to do with the company, you know, more so than just giving people a physical product to use on the field.
Well, I love having that defined vision statement that's empowering as well and inspiring people to move forward. What are some of the goals that you've set for yourself, whether they're short-term, intermediate term, or longer term, for yourself and the business?
Yeah, for myself, I think it's just, you know, kind of just trying to find who I am still after, you know, embarking on this journey, right? So I've learned a lot about, you know, who I am and what kind of a business do I want to operate, whether it's, you know, this business with tons of employees or, you know, not so many. Do I want to focus on just lacrosse heads or expand into, you know, other parts of equipment or other, you know, sports, whatever else it is. So I think for me, that's a goal of just like trying to tailor in on what exactly I would like to, you know, how I would like to lead my life with my business, you know, kind of running alongside that. For the business, you know, yeah, there's like, I guess, head sales goals and numbers and things like that, just to hit to make sure I can continue to make this a realistic, you know, feasible thing that I can run and operate, right? But beyond that, there's not a ton of, I guess, really like outlined markers that I'd like to hit right now. I mentioned some of them when talking about the vision, with like being able to donate to these charitable causes and things. And we've done that already with partnerships we've had with different events, like that have supported military causes or whatever else. But yeah, like the Champions Challenge in North Carolina is one of them that we've supported. And then also Shootout for Soldiers has been one that we've been able to raise some money for.
Can you share a little bit more about those two?
Yeah, so the Champions Challenge is put on by Stick With Us Lacrosse. So every year we donate heads to them that are used in their raffle. So those generate, you know, hundreds of dollars each to, that's all then donated towards the specific causes like Wounded Warrior Project or whoever else they're partnered with. And then the same thing goes for Shootout for Soldiers. They had heads that we donated to them as well that they raffled off to help raise money at the event.
Oh, that's really cool to be able to do that. And speaking of the heads, I have to give a shout out for one of the kids that I coach, Dion. He's asking about about the new defensive 2.0 head. He wants to say he loves the heads. He's been using them all over the valley, which is cool. I know I sent you some messages. His sister wants to know if you're getting back into or going to do women's heads as well.
Yeah, so the women's heads have been a process. Unfortunately, those still aren't ready quite yet. You know, that's definitely the plan, though, is to provide both men's and women's sticks. But it doesn't look like that's going to be this summer for the women's heads. The planned release date right now for the men's heads is August 30th. I'm shooting for. There's been some, you know, complications and things, but I'm really hoping that on that day, you know, they can be available on the website again. The new defense and offensive 2.0 heads, like you talked about, they're much stiffer, you know, stronger head that's going to hold up much better, especially in the Arizona heat. So I'm really excited about that. You know, it's going to be much more like an ECD, like DNA type head that's really going to retain shape out in that intense weather out there. So that's really exciting. Yeah, that's about it for the heads as far as that goes. I guess you'll see more of them later this month for sure.
And what about mesh?
So August 30th. Yeah, mesh kits. We're not going to do any mesh kits right now. If we do mesh, it's going to be more than likely a partnership with somebody. So I know Joe Williams well from Throne Lacrosse. So I'm trying to put together something with him to do, provide some of their cool mesh alongside the custom heads that I think would look really cool and people would like a lot. But I don't have any plans to get into the mesh game right now.
Got it. Well, Tommy, it sounds like you're up to a lot of things right now, and you've already created some amazing, I think they're pieces of art. when you really look at them, they're unbelievable. Do you have a favorite head or design that you put together?
Oh man, that's a tough question. It always seems like the next one is my favorite. I'd say the one that Dion actually has, the Joker head, is one of the most popular heads that we've made and designs that we've made. I personally like the one we did for the World Championships that had all the 46 or 48 different countries' flags on it. I thought that one was really cool, and it represented, all these different countries that were playing lacrosse. But yeah, other than that, it's tough to choose. Like when people send, the different ideas and the different team logos or players or images of, family, friends, whatever else that's going on the head, I think all those ones are like really cool because, what they mean to each person, how special they are. But it's actually funny that you say, you think these are more of a piece of art, because that's sort of the stigma I fight sometimes with the heads, is that people will get them, but they don't want to use them on the field because they're like, it's too pretty to use. It's like, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to break it. So I always like message people back, like, no, you got to use it. It's supposed to be played with, this is like a premier head that's actually like great for performance and all that, it's not just supposed to hang on the wall. So yeah, it's kind of funny, but.
That's interesting. So how do you, I know it sounds like you have to message people to get them beyond that. How do you make it a premier head? Is that just the people you have building the heads, or engineers, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, it's the engineering that goes into it. And then, my experience at playing at the highest level in the NLL, like I knew what it takes in terms of like durability for a head, and what that needs to be. And then as far as like face shape goes and the different things that go into it, having my own playing experience was really huge. Because in college, I would say I was using the STX Surgeon in college, and nothing like wrong with STX heads. I absolutely love them, but I was going through one head probably every 3 to 4 weeks, and I wasn't a face-off guy either. It's just like they break a lot. And so, especially when you're going to be paying a little extra to get, this cool custom head that you have, I wanted to make sure that breaking the head wasn't going to be failing people in that way. And so I've only ever actually had one head returned because it broke in the 3 years of selling these things.
Wow.
So the durability, has definitely stood the test of time for the heads. So people can know that if they're going to invest in something that's a little bit higher price point to get that customization and personalization, it's worth it, because it's not going to be one of those heads that breaks on you in 2 months, 3 months. Whatever else. It was built to perform. It was built to withstand. I played with it in the NLL camps and all that stuff to make sure this thing was going to withstand the most brutal lacrosse that you can imagine, before releasing something to the people. So, yeah.
Well, cool, Tommy. It sounds like it's really stood the test of performance, and to hear that for 3 years, only one head has been sent back. That's pretty great to hear. And it sounds like each head is progressively getting better as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, Tommy, I appreciate your time today. I think diving into a story of learning NLL while juggling your service experience would probably be a pretty fascinating tale as well. But I know we're coming up to our 30-minute mark. And I want to ask before anything, is there anything that we can do to support you and your mission?
No, I guess just whatever you can to share the message of Sidewallz Lacrosse. People seeing this, I'm so thankful that you had me on here. That way I can, tell my story in a more vocal way. But yeah, if people want to support it, there's going to be merch that comes out at the end of this month, stickers. If people don't want to spend the full price of getting a brand new head. And then the new head's coming out at the end of this month as well. So there's plenty of ways to support the business. All those financial ways help, but also people that, send messages like, Dion and his family. I love seeing those messages of like, hey, I'm using the head, or this is what I think about it. Thank you so much for, creating this. Like all that stuff is like, does a ton for me motivation wise and continuing to push this thing to the next level. So that's one of my favorite parts for sure, hearing those messages.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be spreading your name out here in Arizona, and as this continues to grow into a larger institution, we're going to continue to have you on, Tommy. You've got an awesome story and a great heart and vision. And I'll tell you this, you're definitely leaving your mark on the game and adding to the heritage.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate those words. Yeah, I'd love to come back on and, like you said, share more about, my NL experience and balancing that with the military stuff. It'd be fun.
Awesome, man. Well, have a good one. Everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and shut this video down.